give it to you. He gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. He gon' give it.
The way I usually start these off is do kind of some rapid fire questions with each guest. And I'll say in the upfront here that y'all are my first episode of two complete strangers to me, which I'm really excited about. We're going to do some rapid fire questions first to introduce you both. Name.
Hello, my name is Kaydn Phoenix.
Boom. Age.
I am 25 years old.
Place of birth.
I was born and raised in Austin, Texas.
Boom. Favorite state in the United States of America.
Texas.
Least favorite type of sushi.
Y'all are going to judge me for this one. California roll.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I can't.
It's stupid. It's not sushi.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, I want.
I love nigiri more than anything.
Okay, I can get on board with that. And best park in Austin.
Oh,
It's
man.
the first thing that comes to your mind.
Everybody likes to say, like, Zilker Park.
But what do you say?
You know, honestly, I don't know the name of the park, but it was this tiny, itty-bitty, like, out-of-the-way park that I used to go to as a kid when we lived over in Project Housing growing up. And it was one of the smallest little things, but it had this cute little bird bath and, like, little path. And I remember old ladies used to walk their dogs all the time over there, and it always smelled like wisteria. And it was great.
I like that, and it's also kind of the almost the opposite of Zilker, right? Like, and I like that about parks too. Like,
Massive.
I don't go to a park to be surrounded by 500 people doing a yoga class or
I
something.
go
like.
to, like, get in tune with nature.
There you
just
go.
to, like, chill out and vibe.
So on a related note, and last random question for you, what do you miss most about 2019 life in Austin?
People.
People?
I miss socializing. I miss going to bigger events and actually, you know, I don't know if you know about it, but the Austin Witchcraft Circle, they used to, like, I might have said that name wrong, but they used to host events at, like, Elysium and stuff.
Okay, cool.
And I miss doing that. I miss going to, like, random little events and meeting people and, like, interacting and
For
stuff.
sure. Yeah.
And COVID has made everything just incredibly solitary.
Yes, that's a very nice way of putting it. All right, cool. Great answers. We're going to you next.
All right.
Name,
My name is Yucci Mae.
age,
I'm 21.
place of birth.
Austin.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
We were just talking about before we started rolling that you have some time in Kyle and some of the surrounding areas as well. Cool.
Yeah.
Favorite movie and why?
I think, what's that one movie with Adam Sandler and that old short man?
The old short man.
That's like every Adam
21,
Sandler movie.
21 Christmas or something?
I know
It was animated.
8 Crazy Nights.
Yeah.
Eight
that
Crazy
one.
Nights, yeah.
Nice, cool.
That was a good one.
Joke's
Cool.
on you. I can't read.
Least favorite rapper,
Lil Pump.
and you like know that for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that or?
It kind of just speaks for itself.
So, okay, sounds good. Sounds good. And then same last question to you. What do you miss most about 2019 life in Austin?
I think the biggest part would be just the openness.
Sure.
You know, just like nowadays, it's just everybody is so focused on staying corona free and stuff like that. And it's just like, whoa, you know, I can't even go to the show. I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
We're about to move into like stage 5.
Oh yeah,
And it's just getting worse and worse. And I just,
for sure. So for me personally, my answer to that question is live music, hands down.
Mhm.
And because so many of the other aspects of just general social life is wrapped into it. So it's not just the show itself. When you're at like the right show with the right artist, the right following, there's that sense of community.
yeah.
It's
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, it's like a great place to meet people with common interests. There's just that kind of feeling of love. There's nothing that can be replaced with that feeling of like everyone kind of saying the same words at the same time or like vibing on the same song. Even if it's new music you haven't heard of before, it's cool to like just look around and feel the fact that like we're all feeling this right now, which is a good segue into the fact that like y'all have this musical vision and journey that you're on that I'm really curious about. And before getting into that, I just want to say that it's cool that you reached out to me, us,
Yes.
to be on the show, which I really appreciate. We take that very much so as a compliment that you would want to have a conversation on the show, mainly because you seem just like all y'all seem very real. Like just this is the act. We don't want to be telling like the Fortune 500 story. I mean, we're not opposed to it, but that's not our thing. Like we want to be telling the actual Austin story. And from what I can glean just from like first, 30 minutes we've been hanging out, like I'm getting a good genuine vibe from y'all. So
We got a pretty good story.
I want to dig into that. I appreciate the fact that you reached out to us. Have you been reaching out to other podcasts as part of your like business journey?
There are a few that we have reached out to, and we're setting up dates to actually go in and film and get things done. But we've been really pacing ourselves. Just, I've noticed a lot of indie labels and artists. We want to take things slow. I've noticed that there's a lot of indie labels that just jump headfirst into it, throw all their money into it and everything else into it all in one go.
Yeah.
And then they're gone after a year. And I don't want to do that. I want to be slow and steady wins the race. I want to introduce ourselves, get to know people, get to know the community, spread what our message is in a comfortable fashion,
cool.
Not in a we're throwing it at your face kind of way.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, can you grab right here and just bring this a little bit closer to your face?
No.
There you go. Much better. Before we dig deeper into that, can you introduce yourself to the listeners and watchers in the context of Wavy Baby Records in terms of the role that you play?
Yes. Alrighty, fans and listeners. My name is Kaydn Phoenix. I am 25 years old, and I am the sole proprietor and owner of Wavy Baby Records. We are based out of Austin, Texas, and our motto is making waves and mixing up some magic. Now, our goal is to help younger amateur artists or underground artists to be seen and heard, and in a way that is not counterintuitive to their creativity or their independence.
Like you would never ask them to compromise kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
When we want to work with an artist, we like what they have already. We just want to fine tune it. Take that lump of metal, make it into a broadsword type of thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to throw it out. We don't want to do anything like that. We don't want to make a quick buck, nothing like that. There's so many talented and hungry artists here in Austin alone, like not even the rest of Texas, that just need a good chance. They need a good break. They need help. Some of them have some of the most amazing music, but they don't know how to promote themselves.
Sure.
Or they don't know how to get on an interview. Or they don't know how to get into an event and things like that.
Absolutely.
So in a way, Wavy Baby Records is a record label, but it's also a service provider.
Nice.
We're there to help unsigned artists that aren't signed to our label also be heard and seen and actually feel like they matter and understand that they are respected for their craft.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of the mindset that a rising tide raises all ships.
Yes.
And something, actually, you sent me a note when we first initially connected. I want to read directly what you sent me because I really liked it. You said, we want to discuss music, bringing artists together, positivity and collaboration instead of negativity and cutthroat competition.
Yes.
I'm familiar with the latter half of that as it's, there is a business aspect to the music industry. And then there's also kind of a sense of, within specific genres, there's a sense of alpha and domination and kind of, that does get competitive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in hip hop.
For sure.
For sure.
And I feel like as time goes on, I'll admit up front, like that's not like the main world that I'm plugged into, but I certainly pay attention. And I love the examples of artists or labels or whatever who are able to either squash beef or like never start shit in the first place and be like, listen, like, of course we want to make as much money as possible. And if that means I'm making money and you're not, I'm okay with that. But that being said, like, we're all a part of the same, like, it's all a part of the culture. It's all a part of we're all a part of the same tide. And if we want to raise all ships, we have to realize that what you do, I do, and vice versa in a certain sense. And like, if you're more successful than me, that doesn't mean fuck you. It's just like, let's figure out a way that we can both be a part of the overall positivity of everyone.
What I like to always say is that, in this industry, people are not commodities. They're people.
Mm-hmm.
They're artists.
Mm-hmm.
They're creatives. They go home to their kids. They make Hamburger Helper on the weekend and then they're dropping a track the next day.
Yeah.
if all I am as a record label or as an owner of my record label is I'm looking at these artists and going, okay, well, how many fans do you have now? How much can I make off of you now?
Yeah.
That makes me a really shallow, shitty person. I would rather look at somebody and be like, oh, I really like your sound. I really want to get behind it. I love the message. I love what you're representing.
Yeah.
Let me help you.
For sure.
And
Understood.
that's all it is. People are not commodities.
All right. So on that note, good segue into Yucci. Let's talk about like what's your role within the label?
I rap, I sing, I produce, I mix and master. I'm kind of savvy on technology.
Nice, which is critical, right? I mean, like, what's the timeline with you coming on board? Where like, was it pretty much at the point of formation of Wavy Baby?
Yes,
All right,
he
cool.
is my partner.
All right, cool, very cool.
I've been there from the start. I'm the lead producer.
Nice.
So.
And what would you, how would you describe your musical journey from a technology standpoint? I feel like you and I are probably kindred spirits in the sense that like I got a good decade plus on you in terms of just life on this planet, but there are so many restrictions to being able to, you listen to your favorite artists, you see videos and interviews of these guys, men and women, just performing at their absolute apex, and it's like there's just so much money that is required to even just get your foot in the door at that level and studio time alone, let alone, having PR people and promotion. And even sometimes it costs money to do collaborations and things like that. So like, what was your journey in terms of becoming the level of tech savvy that you needed to be to record at the quality that you wanted to do or do what you're doing?
Do you want me to start at the very, very beginning from my first track?
Day one. Let's do it.
Okay, so this is something that's super illegal, and I do not recommend any other artists do this because you might get sued. And all of these tracks are deleted from the internet forever. But
it's good preface.
I would go on YouTube and look up like free type beats and stuff like that, and then download them.
Sure.
And then drag them into Audacity.
Yeah.
And then just record one single track, hook, verse, everything all in one go.
So even with Audacity, I guess I'm curious because just with the journey I went through, how did you even pick Audacity? There's a lot of different of those programs like available to like which one are you going to teach yourself?
I was broke and it was free.
Oh, cool. There you go. There you go. There you go.
I was young. I was really, really young, but I wanted to get into music.
What's real young?
Like 12, 13, 14, like baby.
That's
like,
awesome, dude.
Baby.
I see these videos now of like 5-year-olds just slaying on a drum set. So I'm like, fuck, why didn't my parents put drumsticks in my hand when I was like 3? So I really do appreciate the fact that you got into it, and regardless of the means or whatever. And like even those who would have a legal claim against anything that you did at the time have nothing to actually gain from pursuing a case against you for that kind of. And so for me, I'm all like, as long because you're not like profiting crazy off of that or whatever. You did what you needed to do to like get that base knowledge to pursue your craft, right?
Well, it developed because shortly after that, I decided to make some pretty bad choices, and I started abusing certain substances and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I stopped focusing on music and more on that side of life, and eventually I realized that the drugs and stuff are always going to be there.
Yeah.
My mindset, who I am, my health, that's not always going to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm getting older every day. Stuff is catching up to me, and I realized, like, I got to put this stuff down.
So I'm curious, did your interest in music and the people that you associated with because of your interest in music lead you to those poor life decisions, or was that a separate part of your life?
It's kind of interesting. So the initial person that offered me drugs the first time was actually the same person who got me off of drugs.
And that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved into a sober house full of musicians, like 10, 20 musicians. Everyone had their own studio and stuff.
Here in Austin?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And after that, it just kind of developed. My friends would be like, yo, Yucci, I need you to lay some drums down on this melody I made, or I need you to put some hi-hats or some whatever, and just make it a hit.
And was this just friends getting together? Was there some sort of, fucking cool. Is that something that still is in existence?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I know.
I love that.
A lot of it was just practicing it over and over, and then, people needing me to put my little spice on it, and then after a while, I just started looking at like YouTube videos of how to produce stuff and like the internet money. Well, the internet money tutorials and stuff like that, they go really in depth with how to produce real hits, how to mix and master, how to do the real stuff, you know?
And what age are you at this point that we're talking about?
Probably like 17.
Are you still in school at this point?
No, I graduated at 16.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was kind of forced into it because of the bad choices.
So I have kind of a fuck college type mentality. You too?
I'm actually in college.
Oh, fuck it.
2 degrees. 2 degrees.
Cool. Well, so let me clarify. I'm all for it. I think that we think it's a racket and a lot of kids get taken advantage of. It's amazing, the idea that I feel very fortunate that I knew what I wanted to do at the time that I got into college. But some of my best friends have switched majors 5 or 6 times. A lot of them don't even finish. You still got to fucking pay, right?
Yeah,
and in a lot of industries as well, even if you do successfully graduate, it's you and 900,000 other kids who have the same undergrad piece of paper. So it's like kind of figuring out that system. That being said, I have a college degree. I'm proud of the fact that I have it. I think that in a process where either you're applying to it really depends on like the field, right? Like if you want to be a physicist or you want to get into creative writing, kind of different things, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about even going through that, because it's a test for yourself, right? You take on this financial burden.
Do you have the determination?
Yeah, exactly. To finish it and to hold yourself accountable for that. And then if you do that, yes, you enter into the adult working world or whatever with a lot of debt, but it's also, you've already achieved something that a lot of people haven't. Yeah. Even if you don't know how to like monetize that right away, it's still really important that you did that for yourself. Get your foot in the door. Yeah. So not taken away from what you're doing at all. And I fully encourage you to give it your all, as long as that's something that you want to do. I think that's the main thing, is that maybe not everyone, a lot of people, especially this kind of suburban mentality, is you finish high school, you immediately, no gap year, don't fucking go get a job. Where do you immediately go into school, you get your undergrad, and now that's even turned to like you immediately go get your master's, and it's like you don't even know what you want to do with your fucking life. Yeah, and then in that process, a lot of artistic endeavors get pushed to the wayside. Yeah. So like I know for me personally, music is a huge part of my life. What I do outside of this is I make music for like video games and TV commercials and stuff like that. Nice. But I also knew going into school that like I'm not going to go to school for this, because the best musical talent out there
is raw.
Yeah.
It is.
Exactly.
Yes.
And raw you can make great connections and stuff in the right school, but I just knew right off the bat, like I'm not Berkeley level talent where I'm going to get accepted. So like, it's a give and take. But so I appreciate where you're coming from in terms of like, were you even considering college? You like got out of high school, you're like, all right, this is life now.
Fuck no.
Okay.
I was on looking for the easiest, best way that I can learn music theory and everything about music the quickest way possible, so that I can retire by the time I'm 30.
Okay. So all right, that's good. Like you had a vision. You weren't just like, I have hobbies, one of them is music.
No, right. That's where the thing kind of switched up for me recently is, when we opened up the record label, I realized that it wasn't just a hobby. It wasn't just something that I do in my free time. Yeah. I spend 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. It's a full-time job.
A full-time job, yeah.
You either treat it like a job or you get fired.
Yep. I want to get that tattooed on my back. I think that's funny. I think that's fantastic. So that's the mindset of creative vision behind the scenes. Do you share that vision in terms of like, what do you want to achieve with a record label, especially and I'm big on devil's advocate. So anything I say to disparage the idea of a record label is nothing personal. I've someone who also comes from the music world. I have the idea of like getting a record deal and like the labels is the one who makes everything happen. But then over the last 10 years, it's like you have all these self-starters. You have people who can use things like SoundCloud and DistroKid and their own publishing, and like that they stand on the quality themselves and their social networking. So given all of the things, and there's a lot of labels out there that are just bloated, and they want to commoditize it. They want to find the next thing that made them, that looks exactly like the thing that made them the most money previously, and then do it again. You don't want to do that. So what is your goal with not that you're looking to commoditize art, but you are building a business around art while trying to keep authenticity? What do you want to do with that in a time of COVID and after COVID?
Okay. Let me see how to answer this the right way.
In 50 words or less.
In 50 words. No. Do we have a word count one? Okay. So like I said, You know, it's about the authenticity, the raw talent, keeping the independence, and making it about the artist, not about the dollar bill, y'all. And
I'm going to derail you a few times. I'm sorry about that. How do you find talent?
how do I find talent?
Yeah.
Pretty easy. I listen and I go, ooh, that makes my ears tingle. And then I'm like, ooh, I want to listen to it.
On like SoundCloud or like where you find
all
stuff?
sorts of stuff,
Okay.
like SoundCloud. Actually, I recently started listening on to Bandcamp, which is like the European-ish version of all of that. And then also YouTube. People will send me their personal tracks and stuff that hasn't been published. And, you know, think about it. When you're listening to music, you listen to the music that captivates you.
Yep.
So I apply that to the same thing. Is it going to captivate me? This raw, hammered out talent, is it already captivating me? Well, it is. All right. How do I make that even more intense?
So do you think that your personal taste in music is reflective of the tastes or interests or desires of a much larger group? Like, do you feel like your personal taste is in tune and in the same vein as your current generation?
I definitely feel that is the case. And also it kind of helps the fact that I love all forms of music. I'm not just specifically signaling out this type or this or that. I like all kinds. And then I also like the stuff that hasn't been heard yet. Like stuff that just makes me go, whoa, that was cool. And then, you know, growing up, that's all anybody ever did was, hey, dude, look at this song real quick. And, you know, that's how we grow up together here in Austin. It's like, dude, listen to this new song. Check this out.
It's like a family.
Hear this person.
Sure.
Hey, my uncle's playing over at the Saxon Pub. Like, you know, like
That's super
everybody's
cool.
about music here.
Oh,
Music has been,
Rest in peace, Saxon Pub.
Mm-hmm.
yes, but music has always been a part of my life. So it's pretty easy for me to make it a passion of my own because it is my passion. It is me. It's what I love. It's how I grew up. It's how I connect, you know? And thinking about it, that's what I want to bring back. You were talking about what we missed about 2019. I want to bring that back, the connectivity of music. Not just the, oh, that's catchy, or the, oh, that's kind of cool, I want to rep it. I want to bring back connectivity, emotion, like back in the era of Frank Sinatra type stuff. Like the way he could sing, it made people cry, it made people move, it made people feel. I don't want just what's catchy. I want something that's going to make people feel a type of way. And if it can make me feel a type of way, it's going to make everybody else feel a type of way.
For sure.
So that's pretty much how I go about it.
So what does that look like in 5 years? Just in an idyllic world.
Ideally, if I get everything I want and I accomplish all of my goals, I want to get Wavy Babys' hands in everything. I want to make our own video games. I want to make our own music. I want to make our own, just all of it.
And do you see this being an Austin-specific endeavor?
Yes, I was born and raised here. My business started here. My family is here. We have been in, my family has been in Austin since it was founded. Before then. Yes. This is my home.
Cool.
This is where I'm at. Even if I move all the way to Japan one day, you know, who wouldn't want to? That's fine. But even if I move to Japan and I live out the rest of my life there, this is my home.
Cool.
This is where I'm from.
I love that. Do you feel similarly from a musical standpoint? Like, is there a musical connection to the art that you make in your specific genre connected to Austin? I feel like it's not commonly a place that's lumped in there with anything in that realm, like if you're a specific genre, but that's not to say that it can't be, right?
Well, like the thing is that like a lot of artists that came out of Austin and actually blew up, I'm not talking about rappers, you know, I'm talking about like, you know, rock and roll stars back in the 80s who sold platinum albums, you know, like that's what I get my inspiration from. And I try to like,
Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
I try to
Like
take that
Blue
sound.
October, Gary Clark Jr., Black Pumas just got nominated for a bunch of
Take that
Grammys,
sound, take that sound, the MIDI for that and stuff like that, and then just put a different instrument on it and mess with the notes until it sounds perfect.
Cool.
You know, and then I can say, hey, I sampled Willie Nelson or I sampled this person because they're from Austin.
For sure.
Because we're an Austin-based record label.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I actually listened to Sittin' Low before you guys got here. And I would say one of my core instruments is guitar. And I noticed that there's kind of like a clean guitar. It's not, but doesn't punch you in the face or whatever. And there's other, it kind of sits back in the beat. So is that actually something that you do? You'll find certain artists that are from the Austin area or have that kind of Texas connection, and you'll find some musical way to incorporate that into what you're doing.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I love that. That's
something I learned recently, and this is something that's kind of popping off with a lot of artists, is people are using guitar and trying to incorporate that into rap, because the guitar itself, the instrument, gives you more hertz and more frequencies than most other instruments, even analog instruments. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, you can do some crazy stuff on there.
For sure. Yes. And especially in like a pretty bass dominated genre, when you're working with guitar, you're dealing with a whole different spectrum of frequencies that can still very much so well interact with 808s and a great groove or whatever.
It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't interfere with vocals as well. So it like kind of maintains that sonic spectrum. So back to the label, do you see yourself being I don't want to say genre specific because there's so many genres, but in the broadest sense, do you see yourself sticking to?
I think you might like my answer.
Okay.
I don't want to stick to any of the known genres.
Okay.
I want to make an Austin genre. What is our motto? Keep Austin weird?
Yeah.
Let's do the weird genre.
Barbecue trap.
Yes.
We're
going to the cookout.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I'd listen to that.
Screamo cookout. Let's do it.
Ooh, that's really good. We're onto something here.
But that's what I want to do. I want to not only re-put Austin on the map.
You're good, dude.
I'll watch that later.
Like, I mean, Austin has always been known as the live music capital.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. But it's really fallen behind the past few years as far as like making waves and making changes and different things like that. It's almost like Austin's asleep waiting for something. So that's what I want to do. I want to make Wavy Baby what wakes Austin up. And I want to create a new genre, which is weird music.
Okay.
You know? And my idea for that is that think of all the genres that are out there. I'll just throw them in a trash bag and pick one out. And then add some like glitter and some like, I don't know, like
some awkward,
some good stuff to it. Like,
Sure.
I just want to make it. I want to make it fresh. I want to make it new. I want to make it something that people are gonna listen to and be like, "Whoa, what is that?
Sure.
Where did that come from? I want more of that. I want to know who made that.
Yeah.
What do the lyrics mean? You know."
So as someone that I love Austin. I've been here many, many times before moving here. I'm also cognizant of the fact that as a whole, I'm technically a part of the problem in terms of what has the bigger Austin gets, the more giant companies come here.
Yes.
Cost of living goes way up, expansion goes way up, the sprawl goes way up, the weirdness goes down. Things start to happen that authenticity starts to become rarer and more pocketed and everything like that.
Yes, the hippie culture gets washed out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Do you feel that, I guess, how do you feel about that? Do you think that you're going to be able to achieve what you want to achieve, given the fact that inevitably it's not going to disappear, but the Austin of your parents is not going to come back, short of some sort of like apocalypse happens and, you know, a fourth of the population gets wiped out?
You know, to be honest, I hear a lot about how like the local Austinites are mad about the people that are moving here and all this other stuff. But I think people forget that Austin is a melting pot. Immigrants have come here. Native American people, indigenous people were here. You know, freedmen mingled in. It is a melting pot. Of all the parts of the United States, Austin is definitely a melting pot. And instead of trying to combat the whole, oh, well, there's new people coming in and washing out the culture, let's incorporate them into the culture.
Yeah.
Instead of going, nah, this is just Austin and then that's all them.
Exclusive.
No, they came to Austin. They came to Austin
For sure.
to set up their businesses,
Yep.
to bring their families here, to be a part of the culture,
Yep.
and to add to it.
Yeah.
So let's welcome them
For sure.
instead of being competition. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that was the whole point of what I said earlier, which is no more competing, no more putting each other down. Let's do the positivity. Let's get back to the roots of what Austin is, which is positivity, creativity, melting pot. Being together, family, friends, you know, the cookout.
Yep.
Let's get back to that.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the weird side of Austin. Let's get back to the weird music, the freshness, the strangeness of it all, because that is what drives people here.
I love it. Yep.
And that's what I want to do.
100%.
Have you heard of the Beautiful Drunk Show?
One more time.
The Beautiful Drunk Show?
I've not, but I'm
It's hilarious. It's good. It's funny. A friend of mine, Martin Keene, he does that.
Mm-hmm.
The Beautiful Drunk Show?
Yes, you'll have to look it up at some time.
Is that an Austin thing?
It's amazing.
Yes, it is an Austin thing.
Okay, so that brings up a good point. So what was the show that you just mentioned?
Okay, so it's called The Beautiful Drunk Show, and what made me think about it was the fact that you're drinking a beer right now, and
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? Shout out to Martin real quick.
Shout out Martin King.
And that's out of Austin?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I love to drink, and I love Austin. Your friends in Austin?
Yes.
All right, cool. Love it. So that's great.
So speaking about community, I
Mhm.
wanted to bring up something kind of fun. So we're having our first launch party event in January.
We being Wavy Baby?
Yes.
Okay.
Wavy Baby is partnering with the Black Justice Resource Group
Okay.
to bring about our launch party. We're doing a dual launch party to launch their foundation and also to launch our record label
And is that
as like an official.
is that an Austin organization? Cool.
Yes.
Great.
And we're going to be showcasing a bunch of artists. Like, it's going to be pretty big. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was community foundations and charities.
Sure. Absolutely.
Wavy Baby is very much about civil rights and LGBTQ rights. I myself am a trans person. My pronouns are he and they. And what I've noticed is that there's not a whole lot of record labels or music groups that are also founded by LGBTQ members.
Oh, yeah.
It almost seems to me like the music group, the whole music industry has just kind of like, they're kind of there.
You're saying
You
from like a business standpoint.
From a
Mhm.
business
Like, if
and
you're the
also an
artist, they're
artist.
like, oh, yeah, like,
they
but-
love it. They want to
yeah,
get behind it. But
but-
business-wise, it's kind of like,
I completely
you
agree.
know, like-
I 100% agree with that. Yep.
And it's something really important to me to give a shout out to, that if you are also, whether you are a person of color, LGBTQ, anything at all, you need to chase your dreams and chase your passions, and don't feel that whatever might make you stand out might make you stand under everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's good. I was curious actually. So, you're one of you both are some of the younger people that we've had on the show. Not that I'm like some sort of grandpa or something, but there are these cultural shifts on a decadely basis, and then also geographically. So I grew up north, which is, I think, as a whole, a little bit more open and progressive and accepting and whatnot. But I can also definitively say that despite the fact I grew up in a nice place outside of Milwaukee, I just know some of my best friends are gay men, and they wouldn't have dreamed of coming out in high school. That just was not on the table. It was a self-preservation thing. It was just like why?
Yes.
I mean, why would I shoot myself in the foot like that? It's a terrible thing and I don't think that any sort of like violence would have come to him, but at the very least there would have been kind of this stigma of just like outcast, and for unfortunately countless number of reasons, we know the worst reasons why people don't come out in either high school or their entire lives. I do have a strong faith and encouragement that our society is evolving in a way that it is becoming easier and easier and more accepted and more, not even just that, just it's becoming just a part of, as it should be. Oh, this is normal fucking life. And it doesn't need to be, this isn't like a gender reveal party or something. This isn't something where it needs to be this big fucking deal. It's just like, respect the individual. We're all individuals.
Which is also, I had a dear friend of mine that waited until he was all the way out in college before he came out. And I asked him, I was like, well, why? Nobody was going to do anything to you or nothing like that. Everybody was very open. And he's like, honestly, I wanted to keep something of my life private. And I was like, whoa, that actually makes sense. Because think about how open everybody is about every little thing in our life. And like, imagine being a cis heterosexual person and making that decision. Oh, I just want to keep my own private sexuality private. It almost sounds weird when we say it out loud, but then when somebody that's a part of the other community, the LGBTQ community or whatever, when they say, oh, I want to keep it private, it's like, oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little strange that even our subtle ideas about privacy and how we feel about ourselves, whether we're part of the community or cis or whatever we are, that some things are more acceptable for someone to be private about than other stuff. And I think that's so silly, but I also respect people's desire for privacy and respectability. Like, you don't have to tell everybody every little thing about you. But if you do come out and you do say something, man, kudos to you. Clap on the back. That's impressive. That's courageous. That's amazing. Because this world that we do live in is very, very judgmental. We are making progress. We are moving forward. I'm a 25-year-old trans person, and I own my own business within a month.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
like, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
If I went back 40 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say any of that.
Sure.
At all.
Of course, yeah. And I think it's fair to say that, especially in a place like Texas.
Exactly. And which is the funny thing. Texas, is a red state, but then Austin is so progressive. I mean, we are seriously a melting pot. We have gangsters and lesbians going to the same bar.
Yeah.
And, like, everybody doesn't care. Like, it's so cool.
Respect.
Everybody's just open and respect. Austin is the type of place that I'm not going to judge you based on who you're in a relationship with or any of that. I'm going to judge you based on your character. I'm going to judge you based on your word. Are you a man, a woman, or an other of your word?
Right.
That kind of thing. And, one of my favorite things my favorite memory was, it's not in Austin, it's actually in San Marcos, but it's called the Stonewall Bar. And I went there, and a bunch of people from Austin go to Stonewall. And I walk up there, and it's a gay bar, and they have, like, gangster-looking people that listen to, like, Pimp C and all this other stuff, intermingling with, like, well-to-do, for lack of a better term, upper-class white men who are not gay whatsoever, but they went to support their drag friends.
Yep.
And I was just sitting there looking at all of it, and I'm just like, holy cow, this is the era we live in now.
Yes.
And I was just like, wow.
Like, specifically Austin, or do you think that that's something that's happening?
It's specifically everywhere, but Austin, really prominent, very prominent about it.
Yeah, I want Austin to be known for, like, the flagship of that, of, like, yes, it's not the original weirdness that Austin once was, but, like, it is reflective of the most progressive version of the new normal.
Austin actually had another motto that I used to hear my elders talk about, and it was, come to Austin, Texas, come as you are and stay as you are. We're going to make you weird anyway. And I love that. And I don't hear nobody saying that anymore. And that's the truth. When you come to Austin, you're expecting all sorts of stuff. Texas, oh my goodness. I remember when I moved to Illinois for a short period, people thought I wore cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and all this other stuff. And then when my best friend came from Illinois to come and visit me down here in Texas when I moved back, she was just like, this is not what I expected. Right. And I was like, what did you expect? She was like, I was expecting, like, Texans with guns and just walking around with a horse. And I'm just like, no, it's about music. It's about community. It's about acceptance. It's about, fuck whatever, your personal stuff is. Are you OG enough to stand on your own 2 feet? Are you a person of your word? Are you going to be creative? Are you going to add to Austin instead of take away from Austin?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody feels. Down from the most poverty, living in project housing, all the way to the 3.5 mil houses out at Westlake.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody is on the same page, which is keep Austin weird, keep it fresh, but keep it respectable. And accept everyone as
keep
they
it
are.
open. Yeah, for sure.
Acceptance.
So on the pronoun front, I had something that I wanted to talk to you about. Are you familiar with there's a professor from Canada. His name's Jordan Peterson. Have you ever heard of him?
I have, actually.
Okay. So he's well known, and I guess I would even say infamous, kind of within the LGBTQ community, because he has really planted a flag in the ground in terms of I'm going to read a quote from him, but basically he's been like, fuck your pronouns, I'll call you whatever I want. And I'm curious what your thoughts on it are specifically. I'm going to read this quote to you, and I just want your, like, initial reaction to it.
For sure.
I
probably already heard the quote too.
So this is Jordan Peterson. I don't recognize another person's right to determine what pronouns I use to address them. I think they're connected to an underground apparatus of radical left political motivations. I think uttering those words make me a tool of those motivations. And I'm going to try and be a tool of my own motivations as clearly as I can to articulate them and not be the mouthpiece of some murderous ideology.
Ooh, a lot to unpack there, but
It's a lot.
I'm going to
Hot
break
bottom.
it down really simply so anybody listening at home that might agree with that, they have an understanding of why it's wrong, not just from a LGBTQ civil rights aspect, but an actual like intelligence aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, what is grammar? Grammar is language or, you know, a bunch of sounds that we use to communicate with one another, to share ideas and to express. Correct? So there are some countries in this world that do not have third pronouns because it never developed in the language. The English language is incredibly lucky to have numerous upon numerous options for pronouns.
Russia is one of those countries that you're talking
Yes,
about.
and also Mexico. Mexico only has he and her pronouns, which, side note, it's kind of interesting because if you are a gay man in Mexico, you're more likely to use female pronouns when speaking to signify that you're gay. Just a little tidbit out
Yeah,
there.
super interesting. Yeah.
So, but look, if you're going to sit there and go, I'm not going to use your preferred pronouns because of some crazy agenda, that makes you sound crazy. You're literally foregoing
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify.
language.
You didn't say crazy. He said murderous.
Murderous.
ideology.
Murder.
Guilty.
Dude, I read that. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
But I
dude?
mean,
Like,
come on. That's crazy. You're literally going to completely ignore language, which has taken thousands of years to progress this far. You're going to completely ignore respect, just blatant respect for a person, because that would be like me going, I am a cis man, saying I am a cis man, and him going, no, what's up, girl?
yeah.
like-
yes, I agree with that. Yes.
So that doesn't even make sense on its own. Like, if somebody identifies a specific way, it's just simple respect. Just respect the person. That's another human being. How would he feel if I just walked in and called him Zer
What's up, bitch?
or something completely random and
Yeah.
I'm just refusing to respect him?
So he's a teacher at the University of Toronto, and the way that this first came up is that two things that are worth noting. One, this is a response to legislation that was passed in Canada that basically made it illegal to not respect someone's pronoun of choice.
To me personally, sounds like he has an authority issue.
I think that's a big thing that's super clear, is that he literally cannot relate at all. And that's a big problem with any democracy, is that if you don't understand that, again, it's the rising tide thing, and respect is a rising tide. You don't have to believe the same thing as someone else or live their life to be able to respect them. And to not be able to just get on board with a pronoun choice because you feel like you're some sort of fucking patriot, and you think that, I guess this idea of that there is this murderous ideology thing, that you have some sort of like secret group of fuckers that are getting together like, hey man, obviously we're all just straight as fuck, and
Obviously, we're planning world domination
we have
with
these
our
secret
they
words.
thems.
So I can appreciate the fact that there being a concern about there being legal repercussions for it, but he makes it very clear that even if there weren't legal repercussions for it, and I think in a scenario where like I am the teacher of these students, it's just, how much of a fucking asshole do you have to be to just be like, I'm gonna call you what I want to call you. That's it.
Your name's not
Stop
Jeff.
eating bacon.
It's now Paul. Like, that's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I think that's what it is. I think they just don't eat bacon.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of people, even within my own family, I have issues with the whole pronoun thing, which
Sure.
I love them to pieces. They're trying and everything else. That's fantastic. But I think there's something that nobody's really touching on. I feel like people are afraid of changing up the language because it questions their comfortability.
Yeah.
And if they're uncomfortable, they want to get back to that comfortability quickly. Instead of just going, you know what? I'll just be comfortable with being respectful. That's really what it is all down to.
Yeah. But as what was previously defined as, and I don't want to get into Trump, but I feel like the idea of make America great again has always been about things used to be great a long time ago.
You know what that makes me think of? Which, by the way, I don't know if anybody else has said it about the make America great thing. That's Trump basically saying America's not great.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Our own president is saying
yes.
our country's not great and he's going to make it great.
Yeah.
That insults me as an American because, I mean, yeah, my country has a bunch of problems. What country doesn't?
Not even
But
American.
I'm never going to stand in front of my people as the leader of my people and say, yeah, we got a shit country, but I got it, bro. Like, what?
But in the same way that art evolves, music evolves, technology evolves, I sure as fucking hope that we can all be on the same page that society evolves.
Yeah.
And in the same way that you can look at the current phone that you're holding and then look at a fucking flip razor from 15 years ago and be like, this is much better.
They're coming back.
Societal.
I can't wait.
Societal evolution is as long within it, the construct of things that we agree upon, like what you were talking about with language. Like the idea is that we all agree to the same parameters of the language. So when we use it to each other,
Yes.
we agree with what is being said.
Yes.
So with societal evolution, I just feel like that's, or it's not necessarily evolution, but just progression. It's the same thing. We all want the best possible place to live for each other, for ourselves, for our families and whatnot. And this idea of, well, actually it was way better 40 years ago before all of that evolution occurred. So let's just get back to that and shut the fuck up.
Well, you want to know what's something that's really interesting that a lot of people don't seem to think about is the fact that us progressing by using proper pronouns and being respectful of the communities and different stuff like that. We were doing that like 3,000 years ago. Like that was already a thing. This isn't new. These pronouns, these identifiers for gender and everything else has long time been around. We actually stepped backward in refusing rights and disrespecting people and making a big deal about bathrooms and pronouns and all this other stuff. Countries all over the world are a million miles ahead of us right now. You know, like take Sweden, for example. You know, they obviously have him and her, but they also have hair, which is a combination of the two for children and people who do not want to identify as any gender or both.
Yeah.
And they added that into their own language.
Yeah.
Okay, take India, for example. They had a whole caste that was, for, you know, lack of a better term, trans individuals who were considered outcasts, but they were important members of the community.
Sure.
Take indigenous people all over the place. Two-spirited. That's a term that's being coming around hugely in the past few years.
Two-spirited?
Two-spirited. So
Like TOO?
two, yes.
Two-spirited,
And so the
okay.
idea behind that, which
TWO.
just to give a little info.
Two-spirited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two.
Okay.
So the idea behind two-spirited is that you are a human being born with both spirits within you, male and female.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Instead of separating the two. So basically, you know, to put it into more modern terms, a two-spirited person would be considered like a trans or a non-binary person.
Sure.
Or someone of a third gender. And they were respected members of the community. How is it that there are these terms, there's these language that we can communicate with all across the world where everyone is being acknowledged that there is more than one gender, there is more than one state of life, and yet America is one of the world powers and we can't wrap our head around just saying one simple word.
Yeah, for sure.
Just for respect.
For sure.
That is insane to me.
Yeah, we're
It
supposed
is
to be
insane.
unified. You know.
Totally agree.
It just don't make any sense whatsoever.
I do think that we are fortunate to all be alive during a time where we're probably going to see at least certainly within our lifetime and our children or whatever, the most growth and progress in maybe all of civilization in terms of America. And so
I hope.
in 300 years, we are seeing the most progress. And there's fucking people are fighting against it. People fucking hate it. People get threatened by it. And a lot
It's
of time,
about comfortability.
I do think it's a lot of time it's people who are fighting against their own inner feelings or identification or mess, and they're suppressing it so much because of religion or anything like that. And I think this is a really important time that we live in, and I think art and music is a big way that we can transcend a lot of those barriers.
Which is also what I want to do with Wavy Baby Records. I want to bring on not just, you know, the stereotypical type artists. I want to reach out to the different communities that are all over and say, hey, I want to hear you. We want to hear you. Come on, let's hear. What do you got?
So I want to phrase this question correctly, and I'll say we got about 10 minutes left here. But we can totally not talk about this if you don't want to, but I'm curious. From my outsider perspective, I get the impression that specifically within the hip hop community, that part of the alpha, part of the brand of a lot of the mainstream hip hop and rap is there is this sense of straight male.
This is actually something fun.
So
I'm
just super curious about it, like,
I just
in terms
wrote
of, like,
a paper.
how you see that
So
evolving.
happy.
And I also think that there's good, like even the movie Moonlight, which won Best Picture 2 years
yes,
ago.
that
Just
was
like
a fabulous movie. I watched
completely
that.
agree. And they do a great job of talking about, and not talking about, but addressing the
It
fact
was
that
subtle.
like, yeah, this is something within these communities that like is so stigmatized.
Yes,
Yep.
and
So-
actually, I recently wrote a paper about this, so I did some quite extensive research. College,
2 degrees, what?
2 degrees, philosophy. Hey, shout out to philosophy with emphasis on humanities and business administration.
I heard.
Hey. So, you know, it's kind of weird though. You know, Black trans individuals were the main reason for the civil rights movement for the LGBTQ community. And I think that it's something that's not really talked about. But Black communities have always had LGBTQ people, have always had trans individuals. They've always had a third gender somewhere in there. Even if you go all the way to wherever, it could be in the middle of Ethiopia. They actually have specific tribes that honor these third genders and different things like that. I think what ended up happening was that when the Black community was eager to be seen and heard and everything else, it, for lack of a better term, got
Yeah,
whitewashed.
conformed.
It conformed,
Yeah.
it got whitewashed,
Societally,
and then
yeah.
all of a sudden, the big, strong, Black, aggressive male was what was monetized. The big, voluptuous Black female who's also straight was monetized. I mean, look at how much waves was made when Lil Nas came out. Everybody was losing their shit about it. The white community was. The Black community was like, yeah, finally.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what does that say? That says that the Black community is not necessarily transphobic or, you know, homophobic or anything like that. It's how it was whitewashed.
Yeah.
And then it became a part of the culture to be hard. It became a part of the culture to be toxic in masculinity, toxic in femininity, because you needed to conform. You needed to be hard in a hard world.
With the Tupac and Biggie era and stuff like that, it really pushed, you know, you gotta be a blood or a crip, or you gotta be this or that.
It's that like tribalism, right? Like
Yeah, you
regardless of what the things you're identifying with, that's coast or color or like color of what you're wearing.
Long story
or skin.
short, you gotta be the alpha. You gotta be the top top dog, and realistically, you already are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody already is.
But I feel like, and I'm not obviously not speaking for a community, but I feel like there's been this assumption that, and just in the broadest sense, that homosexuality is associated with, there's obviously there's no way you could be alpha and gay.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking
Nobody heard
about?
of a top? Hey. No, but that's the thing is like, you know,
I'll kiss you, boy.
you know, obviously I can't speak for everybody.
Speak
you
for
know,
yourself. Yeah.
But what I have noticed with history-wise is that, you know, going back into the slave eras and stuff, when people were being auctioned off, it was usually the strong alpha males. It was usually the buxom, broad females and things like that. And then, you know, fast forward through the segregation, everything else that happened, and then now here we are in the common era. Now, that idea of a prized colored person is still being perpetrated in a toxic way.
Mhm.
It's just positioned differently.
It's positioned differently,
Yeah.
but it's still happening, and it's still subjugating people. I just was talking to an artist, actually, a young Black man that he was super excited to put his music out. It sounded like a hippie new wave version. He's like, how do you think they'll like it, though? I'm like, it's fantastic. What do you mean? He's like, well, I mean, you know, I'm not like the big buff black guy. And I'm like, honey, that doesn't matter. You have talent. What are you talking about? And he's like, well, you know, my cousin was telling me that I probably won't sell because I don't have muscles and I don't look like 50 Cent and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, none of that matters. You got talent. You have a voice. You have a message.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hit me when I got home and I was like, oh my God. It goes without saying that it's still toxic. It's still poisoning the community. It's still putting out this idea that there is no inclusiveness in the community. And then in that case, it also separates them from everybody else because everybody else is wanting inclusiveness. Yeah. And now there is a perpetrated idea that the black community is not inclusive, that they're hard, that they're alpha and all this other stuff. And that it just sets it up to where they get signaled out.
Sure. Well, I want to say that I'm, again, you know, we literally just met for the first time tonight. I'm proud to know that y'all are doing what you're doing with this mission. It's something I firmly believe in, fully want to support. I think it's so important just from a cultural standpoint, from a musical standpoint, from a stereotype standpoint, from a crossing barriers and crashing through ceilings kind of standpoint. Like, I'm all
Making
for that.
waves.
Fuck the ceiling.
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
I'm in the sky.
Yeah, and I'm fully for both of you from a business, logistics, relationship standpoint, from a music standpoint, from a sampling standpoint, from a lyrical standpoint, whatever, even from an image standpoint. Like, I fully encourage you to just say fuck everyone who is not on board with this, especially in a place like Austin. I sincerely hope. A big reason that I'm in a place like Austin is because I feel like it is a place where you can do that, and those who come up against you can truly go fuck themselves. I'm 100%
and I will gladly
on board
say
with that.
this: if you are against civil rights, if you are against the communities, if you are against respecting one another, if your only goal is to cause damnation and degradation and like just freaking evil energy, don't fucking come near me, because my whole purpose in life is positivity and bringing about love, happiness, community, and peace. And I do not want nothing to do with anybody that's a racist, a bigot, a sexist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, anything like that. My bottom line is respect yourself, respect each other, and respect the world. If you can do that, I'll work with you.
There's an interesting feeling I've been having recently, especially in the last 4 years, where there is this association of, if you're open-minded, if you're progressive, there's a lot of these different words that can be then labeled, and certain people might attach to one or not. But in general, if you are liberal, there is this sense of peace that goes along with it. And I'm all for peace. I also understand that there are things in this society and things in this world that you need to fight for. And sometimes that literally means physical violence. Right. And I don't like this idea of that for those of us who are opposed to racism and bigotry and things that literally not only can, but very much so do result
there's no point
in
to
people
it.
being beaten to death or ostracized or humiliated or just raped or whatever. Like,
yes, there's no point to any of it.
There's no point to any of it. But what I would like to say is that I hope and I think that there is kind of a subsect of us who are open-minded, who are also very much so ready to physically fight for what we believe in. And that there should be this other group of us. We're all on the same team, but there needs to be a group of us who are willing to, I don't want to say take up arms, but like, it's not just a matter of like, oh, I'm going to give someone a hug and we're going to solve problems. Like, if I see fucking brutalization happening, I'm willing to brutalize.
Then that's I have something to share with you. So I was recently in a documentary and it's called 12 and it's about the Austin protests.
Oh, nice.
It's on YouTube. My friend Logan, shout out Colossus, he put it together and we spent probably about 2 weeks helping people, going around. I was both a security type person, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And then also a medic, and I was going around and helping people and, you know, telling fuck you cops and doing all the stuff. And something that I saw out there was that people were ready to fight for things and to fight for change, even if they didn't have a solid direction. That energy is definitely here in Austin.
Fuck
of
Mm-hmm.
fuck y'all, we love one another, and we will fuck your shit up if you try to destroy what we have, which is family, community, and love.
Exactly.
And that goes for all sexes, all creeds, all races. It does not matter who you are, what you are, where you're going. If you're here in Austin, let alone the world, we're going to protect you. We're going to fight for you. That's why. It wasn't just a trendy thing. Oh, look at me, I'm on the phone. It was you're a person, I'm a person. That's it. That's all it needs. That's all that's required. You're a human being, and I care about you, and I respect you, and I want to protect you and defend you.
And I don't want to speak
That's
for
it.
you, but would it be fair to say that that also applies to the people who hate you for who you
Yes.
are? And I think that's the most important thing. Not that you want to go fucking get a beer with them, but at the end of the day, we're
At
all
the
a
end
part
of
of
the
this.
day,
Yeah.
I will fight for everyone's right to live.
Yeah.
I will not fight for the right to destroy.
Yes.
And if your actions and your ideals and what drives you, what makes you go vroom through life is to destroy others,
Yeah.
I will never, ever side myself with someone like that. Ever.
I love that.
I can't.
completely agree.
That's just going against our own species. Like, do you realize that we're all the same species?
Yeah.
We're all just basically animals with tweed jackets and, a beer can. Like, why the hell are we spending so much time fighting one another when we could be creating, we could be innovating, we could be moving forward and lifting one another up and making a fucking difference? If we're the superior species, why are we fighting like we're goddamn chimpanzees?
100%.
Oh
100%
my
Like, why?
agree with that. Yes, yes.
Let the change begin.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So with that in mind, again, I want to thank you all so much for what you're doing, again, from an organizational standpoint and from a musical standpoint. I know that these cameras are, we're getting some upgrades to the studio soon that will allow us to record longer, but this is
Some
going to be
flavor.
Yes, exactly. But is there anything happening from a musical standpoint that you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Yes. Okay. So I'm not going to reveal names just yet, but we have just signed 5 new artists. We are dropping 3 more albums in the next month to 2 months.
Fuck yeah.
We have our launch party happening January 30th. Shout out to Keith Johnson, who is helping me to put that together.
And where's that party?
It will probably be at the Riley. I still have to solidify the location.
Okay.
But it's definitely going to be an Austin event for sure.
Cool.
Also, we are actively looking for new artists to sign. If you feel like you got the talent, you got that raw passion, you want to make a difference. Like we said, we're about positivity, making changes, lifting one another up. You definitely need to get in touch with us because we want to help you.
And how should they do that?
I have, which I'll give it to you. I have a business email. They can also hit us up on Wavy Baby Records.
It's going to be right here as I'm pointing to this
Yes.
magical
Okay.
URL right here. As I
So
said.
it will be kaydnphoenix@gmail.com
Yeah.
for my business email. And if you would like, you can also get in touch with me on my personal Facebook. You can get in touch with us on our Facebook page. We're on all social media.
Wavy Baby.
Yes, Wavy Baby Records.
Cool.
One last thing. If you are a local business or a charity or a foundation and you like our message and you want to work with us, do not hesitate. We are all about community. We want to get the charity names out there. We want to get the foundations out there. We want to be a community unity effort.
Love
for
it.
family.
Awesome. All right. What about you, my dude?
You can find me on Yucci Mae official on Instagram. If you go on Facebook, you'll find me at Yucci Mae, and on Twitter, if you go there, you'll find me at Yucci Mae. It's just Yucci Mae, YUCCIMAE.
Love it.
And so, yeah.
Are you making new music as we speak? I mean, not
right,
not literally as we speak, but you know.
right now,
He's all on his phone.
He's like, ooh man, this fucking.
right now, I am. I'm working on one album that I'm willing to talk about, and then I have a few other projects that I'm working on
Cool.
with various artists.
You gotta always keep it going, man.
But yeah, the album I'm working on right now is going to be about changing basically society.
Cool.
Being that dreamer, that dream catcher almost,
Yeah.
making society something that I want my children to live in.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have y'all on. It means so much to me that y'all came on. Thank you again so much for reaching out. I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do. I will, if the invite's there, I will be there on
Absolutely.
January 30th.
Always.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
I wish you guys the best. As someone who loves this city and loves music of all types, shapes, and sizes, or whatever, it means a lot to me to have someone like y'all a part of this community who are doing something both artistically and culturally and societally. It's really important. Don't let anyone tell you to stop.
Yes.
Just fucking do it. So thank you
Yes.
guys so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having
Thank you.
us on.
Thank you very much for
Pleasure.
watching. Please find us on wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and then Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything like that. Also, we have a Patreon, and if you want to be a part of that, it's super simple, like super low amount per month that you can be a part of. You get access to behind the scenes content, our planning meetings. I'm going to be doing some episodes in the future where I'm on mushrooms, which will only be available on certain platforms like Patreon. So if you want to see that, please check it out. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. If you like what you hear, you like what you see, please hit that share button, and thank you so much.